The third piece that I'm going to talk about is alignment of effort. What's the kind of leadership that's needed here? Over here, you will find that the most important leadership aspect is being a coach-like leader. What we don't want you to be doing is telling people what to do, because then you're not going to align, you're going to cascade. It's going to be a top-down. It's going to be, I tell, you listen. I am the leader, I have all solutions. You are not a leader, so you have to listen to me. That approach will not work. You have to talk to people on a regular basis. You have to make sure you trust your people, that they're making the right decisions, and you have to coach them. You have to ask them, not tell them. All right? Telling may be needed once in a while, but more coach approach is about more asking. And the kind of culture that you need here is a culture of cooperation, right? It's a culture where you're constantly having communication openly with people. It's a culture where people are setting goals together and also sharing their resources together. If people are not going to communicate, if people are not going to collaborate, and if people don't share their resources with each other, then you're not going to see alignment work, right? And the big derailer here is when there's no discipline of coaching and communication. With OKRs to be successful, leaders need to communicate very frequently as every week or 15 days. You have to connect with the organization transparently and communicate as quickly as every week or 15 days to see what's going on, what needs to change, what do we continue doing because we're doing them really well. What do we stop doing because it's not working, right? What do we need to change because there's a new idea? Those conversations need to be on a regular basis. They need to be coach-like, and they need to be transparent. That's when you start seeing that alignment is actually giving you the necessary impact. And last but not the least, how OKRs help with value generation, right? So what kind of leadership might actually help you here? As a leader, if you really want people to generate value, if you want your team to generate value, you have to start talking to them about creating a mindset that's focused on outcome, right? To do that, you will need to empower people. Give them the leeway and give them the opportunity to think about what kind of outcome they want to generate, and therefore empower them to work towards getting those outcomes, right? You need to build in accountability in the system. You need to build in ownership in the system. As a leader, that's going to be a primary job you need to undertake. And from a culture point of view, you need a culture where people are constantly synergizing with each other. Now, this is extremely critical. For OKRs to work and succeed, you cannot have team members or you cannot have departments where some people are heroes and the others are not. So we call this the zero hero culture. For OKRs to win, everybody needs to work in a synergistic fashion. There's no place for heroes. So that's why we call this culture a zero hero culture. A zero hero culture means everybody has a part to play. Everybody has an important contribution to make. No department is the most important department, or no department should be the least important department. No member or employee in a department must be a hero employee, or no employee must be a hero star player of the quarter or the month. With OKRs, that just doesn't work. All right. OKR is about a systemic change. And for that, the system needs to work collectively. The biggest derailer here, guys, is using authoritarian leadership and a culture where you're rewarding individuals rather than teams. A culture where you're recognizing individuals instead of recognizing teams. The team must be recognized. The team must be acknowledged. The team must be given the due credit, but not individuals in the team. That's when OKRs will work, right? Because OKRs are about collective goals. OKRs are not about individual goals. And as a leader, you have to stop being an authoritarian leader. You have to stop being a dictatorship kind of leader. You have to stop being a leader that keeps saying, I will tell you, you have to listen. You have to be a leader where you're involving people, you're inviting people, you're enrolling people, you're exciting and inspiring people. And that's when OKRs will give the right kind of impact for you. So that is pretty much my presentation, everybody. And I just like to end by giving you a couple of messages. And this is at a really broad level. I think the pandemic and the COVID situation has really changed a lot for different companies and for different countries. Thailand right now is in a very important phase. As a country, you will see that Thailand has started recovering from the pandemic very slowly. Only in the last 2 or 3 months has the economy starting to revive. So it's an opportunity for this entire country right now to see how you can use OKRs to create exponential growth, how you can use OKRs to change the fabric and the economy of your country. It's also an opportunity for you to see, as a leader, how do I start thinking and behaving differently, right? What kind of a new ecosystem do I want to create? How do I really want to transform my company so that when the country grows, I am growing with it? But remember this, the second message for you guys is your country will not grow if your company does not grow. And your company will not grow if your leaders don't grow. So my invitation for you is, as leaders, see how you want to start growing, see how you want to get better, see how you want to change your mindset. Through that, you will be able to impact your company. And through your company, you will be able to impact your country's economy. And I believe very strongly that OKRs have the potential for you to change your organization very quickly in a short span of time. But that would require you to make some radical changes in the way you operate your business, in the way you show up as a leader. And that means you have to start looking at those changes as quickly as possible. So thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of OKR International and OKR Academy Thailand, I would once again like to thank you for attending this webinar, and I hope you derive value from here.
All right. Nick, thank you so much for your time. I have a quick questions. I think this is very important for the team. I think the audience would like to hear from you, even though we know that we can answer that question, but would be great that we can hear from you as well. So one of the questions from the floor asking that if not link OKR with the compensation, how can the leader motivate the staff or the team to achieve the OKR?
Could you ask this question differently? I just want to make sure I got this right, Terry?
I asked exactly based on the person that written on that one, because one of your conversations has said to us that because if the company would like to have innovations, we shouldn't link the OKR to the compensation. And the further questions is that, wow, if we're not linking the OKR to the compensation, how can we motivate the team or the staff to achieve the OKR then?
Oh, that's a great question. All right.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is just give me a second. I'm putting up a slide here for everyone.
Okay. So I'll take this opportunity to translate that back to the team นะคะ โอเคสวัสดีค่ะทุกท่านนะคะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตสรุปในขณะที่คุณนิกกำลังเตรียมสไลด์ที่จะตอบคำถามนะคะพอดีว่ามีคำถามมาจากฟลอร์นะคะบอกว่าถ้าคุณนิกเริ่มบอกเลยนะคะว่าในลักษณะของความที่เป็นซูเปอร์พาวเวอร์ของ OKR ทั้งหมดมันมี4อย่างมันคืออะไรบ้างนะคะเดี๋ยวจะเล่าแล้วก็สรุปให้ฟังอีกทีหนึ่งคราวนี้คีย์เวิร์ดที่เขาบอกนะคะก็คือว่าถ้าเราลิงก์กับ OKR เนี่ยกับในเรื่องของการประเมินผลงานตรงเนี้ยมันจะทำให้การเกิด innovation หรือว่านวัตกรรมใหม่ๆเนี่ยไม่เกิดขึ้นในองค์กรคราวนี้คำถามมาจากฟลอร์ค่ะถามว่าถ้าอย่างนี้ถ้าสมมติว่ามันไม่ได้ลิงก์อยู่กับ compensation หรือไม่ได้ลิงก์กับผลงานอย่างนี้จะไป motivate ทีมได้ยังไงล่ะว่าให้เขา achieve OKR นะคะให้เขา achieve OKR Nick, are you done with the preparation so you need a few minutes?
Here's where I'm going to answer the question now.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So if you take a look at this slide, everyone, you realize what we have is your Pareto principle. Sometimes we also call this the 80-20 rule. So if you've heard of the Pareto principle, it talks about cause and impact. Now, when you use this with OKRs, you realize that OKRs are not meant for everything. All right. OKRs are meant for only those 20% goals, right? Which is why we say when you're writing OKRs, you should have no more than 3 to 5 OKRs. Now, what does that mean? It means you as a business decide what are those top 3 goals or 4 goals or 5 goals that I want to focus on, which will give me 80% impact, right? And that means I am trying to create transformation through those goals. Simultaneously, you also have something called business as usual. What is business as usual? Business as usual is essentially your KPIs, all right? And a typical business may have hundreds of KPIs. You may have 150 KPIs. Now, this is where your performance management system and your reward system comes in. This is where individuals come in. This is individual work. This is group goals. Your performance management system is about individuals. All right. And if you look at how individuals work in any company, they would work on a lot of business as usual, right? And your performance management and reward system essentially has your goals, which are your KPIs, and you also have your competencies, which is your behavior. The belief is if I work on these, I will be able to eventually impact my group goal. So your reward system is already in place. But what are people working towards? That's important, right? In many organizations, people are not clear why they're working on a job. They're not clear why they're doing an activity. With OKRs, the idea is to tell people what's the priority. And then when they start using business as usual to focus on these priorities, they're actually contributing towards it, and the performance management system takes care of it. But there is or should not be a direct dollar value here because this is to do with group goals. It's about telling everyone that's the direction we want. Those are the areas we want to work on, and then letting people decide how they will contribute towards it. So that's my quick answer to this, guys. And there's a lot more explanation there, But if you understand the big difference here, you will be able to understand how OKRs are different from performance management systems. Right. Any more questions for me, Kun Siri?
I'm not yet seeing. It's okay. The questions further, just to double confirm that, it means that the OKR should be implemented with KPI, right?
Yes, it also means that sometimes you may have a KPI in your OKR, and you might have that KPI because the business wants to focus on that KPI. But you can't put every KPI in your OKR sheet. It's going to drive everybody insane, because what you're doing with OKR is you're telling people that's priority, right? And what do we mean by priority? What we mean by priority is you're choosing something over something else, right? You're choosing. So if you have 100 KPIs, you're saying that these 20% of those KPIs are critical for me, all right? And when you say these are the top 3 or 4 goals, then as a company, you usually have resources. You have manpower, machine, material, money, and time. These are resources. What OKR allows you to do is, when you put priority and you say, these are 3 goals we want to achieve in this quarter, and we believe these 3 goals will give us 80% impact to our top line, to our bottom line, to our sales numbers, to our margins, to our EBITDAs, whatever it might be. It allows you to say, if these are my priority goals, then I'm going to invest my resources. First, I will invest my resources for this, right? Simply because now I know that by putting my resources here, I will be able to get the most impact. What I don't want to do is, I don't want to take all my resources and put them on 150 KPIs. There's no priority here. And if my business priority is not clear, then I'm in a lot of problem. So for example, if I'm a telecom company, and if I have a new competitor, now my priorities may change. If I have customer attrition, my priority has changed. Suddenly, if I have 20% of my company people leave and go to the competition, my priorities will change. And so I have to focus on those priorities. I have to decide which KPI is more important and which KPI takes a backseat on a quarterly basis.